The first thing I noticed was the silence. Not the ordinary hush of space, muffled by airlocks and hull plating, but an uncanny absence of noise. The kind that seeps into your bones and makes you question whether you're still alive. My suit's oxygen regulator hissed, the only reminder that I hadn't drifted into the void. The battle was over, at least for my unit. The enemy had come in numbers we hadn't expected, striking our patrol ship from the asteroid belt. We never saw them coming, and our engines were ripped apart before we had the chance to send out a distress signal. I should have died with the rest of them. But somehow I didn't. I floated among the wreckage, half conscious, my leg split open from shrapnel. The wound bled through the nanoweave of my suit, the pain hot and steady like molten iron. My helmet display flickered with the failing systems of the escape pod I had barely managed to eject. And then they found me. Aliens. They were not what Earth's archives had described. No reptilian monsters or insectoid horrors. These were tall beings, wrapped in crystalline armor that shimmered as if grown from their own bodies. Their movements were precise, almost regal. Behind them came a larger shape, a towering figure draped in luminous silk-like strands, her head crowned with living bioluminescent tendrils that pulsed in patterns I could almost, but not quite, understand. The alien queen. I would have closed my eyes and welcomed the void, but her presence pinned me in place. Her soldiers surrounded me, weapons raised, except they didn't strike. They froze. Their luminous eyes widened as they saw my wound. Something strange passed between them, a ripple of fear, awe, and something deeper. As if the sight of my blood was not a weakness, but a revelation. The queen stepped closer. She tilted her head, studying me. Then, to my astonishment, she knelt. And her soldiers, those towering warriors of crystalline armor, lowered their heads to the ground as if in worship. The middle. I don't remember being carried aboard their vessel. Only the warmth that spread through me when the queen placed one of her glowing tendrils over my wound, and the world slipped away. When I woke, I was no longer inside my shattered pod, but in a chamber unlike anything I'd ever seen. The walls pulsed faintly like living tissue, yet they were cool to the touch. Energy lines ran across the surfaces, glowing veins of blue and violet. The queen was there, seated on what could only be described as a throne grown from the living ship itself. Around her stood her soldiers, silent and watchful. I tried to rise, but pain lanced through my leg. My bandage had been removed. In its place, the wound was covered in a translucent film, beneath which new flesh was already knitting together. Their technology had healed me faster than any human medkit could. The queen's gaze fixed on me, her luminous tendrils weaving patterns in the air. One of the soldiers approached, carrying a crystalline device. He touched it, and suddenly I heard words, not through my ears but directly in my mind. "You bleed light." The voice was hers, though no sound escaped her lips. I glanced at my wound in confusion, but all I saw was blood. "I don't understand," I whispered. The translation device hummed. "Your injury. It is sacred. Your blood is the echo of the first flame. You are not prey. You are remnant." I stared at her, unsure if I was delirious. "I'm just human. Soldier. Nothing more." A wave of murmurs spread among her soldiers, their tendrils flickering in agitation. The queen raised one hand, and silence fell instantly. "Your kind was lost to us millennia ago," she said. "We believed you extinguished. Yet here you bleed before me. Proof. Living proof." It dawned on me then. They weren't reacting to me. They were reacting to what they thought I represented. Some ancient prophecy, some lost lineage. I shook my head. "There's been a mistake." No God. I'm no remnant. I'm just a man who happened to survive. Her gaze softened, or at least I imagined it did. Survival is the mark of the first flame. Over the following cycles aboard their ship, I learned more than I ever thought possible. The queen, who allowed me to call her by the name Erythea, explained their history. They were called the Toan, a species who traced their origins to what they believed was a celestial gift. Beings of flesh infused with a spark of primordial fire, a flame said to bind them to the stars themselves. They believed long ago there was another race, the remnants, who also carried that flame. A race lost to time and war. Humanity, it seemed, bore uncanny resemblance to the myths of these remnants. And my blood, reacting strangely under their scans, convinced them I was something more than human. But not all of them agreed. Some of the Queen's generals whispered that I was a trick, a spy, a weapon planted by their enemies. Others argued I should be worshipped, paraded as a sign that the Turn's destiny was unfolding. I had become a fracture point in their culture, a living question they couldn't answer. Erythea, however, never wavered. She treated me not as a prisoner, but as an honored guest. She asked about Earth, about our wars, about the fragile hopes of our species. In return, she shared the Churn's philosophy, that existence itself was war, not against others, but against the entropy of the void. To endure was to be divine. And then the choice came. One of her ships intercepted a human distress signal, survivors from another battle, adrift and calling for aid. Protocol dictated they should destroy enemy beacons. But Erythea asked me, "Do you wish them spared?" Her soldiers bristled. To save them was to defy their war codes. To destroy them would prove my loyalty to the Queen. I could feel the weight of their gazes. My wound still throbbed, though it had healed almost completely. It reminded me that I was still human, still flesh and blood, not some divine remnant. I took a deep breath. Spare them, please. If you believe I carry this flame, then let it mean something. Let it mean mercy. Silence followed. Then Erythea rose from her throne. So it shall be. Her soldiers fell into uneasy stillness. The ending. The humans were brought aboard. They stared at me with the same mixture of fear and disbelief I had once given the Queen. To them, I was a traitor standing among aliens. To the Turn, I was a symbol standing between gods and mortals. And yet, when Erythea stood beside me and declared to both groups, "This one carries the flame. Where he walks, war shall bend," I realized the truth. I had become something neither human nor Turn could fully claim. Bridge. Or perhaps a wedge. Over time, more human survivors were rescued. Tensions mounted, but Erythea insisted on uniting them under her protection. The Turn soldiers obeyed, albeit reluctantly. I could see it in their eyes, the same awe they had felt that first day when they saw my blood. I was not their god, but I was their sign. One night, as the ship drifted beyond the fractured belt of asteroids, Erythea approached me privately. "Do you know why they bowed when first they saw you?" she asked. I shook my head. "Because of some prophecy." Her tendrils shimmered faintly, casting her in an almost human expression of sadness. "Because to bleed is to live, and to live is to defy the void. When they saw your wound, they saw proof that the flame endures in you. They saw hope." I looked down at the faint scar on my leg, now little more than a pale line. "And what do you see?" She paused, then leaned close, her voice a whisper.